Hallmark Catholicism by Ronald A. Lindsay, from Free Inquiry's online column Unprayerful Reflections at secularhumanism.org. A recent issue of The New Yorker published a piece about the Pope's astronomer. Inevitably, the essay, besides providing some interesting biographical details about the gentleman, Guy Consolmagno, addressed the tension between Consolmagno's scientific work as an astronomer and his Catholic faith. Consolmagno is a Jesuit. But wait, there is no real tension. Consolmagno and the essay's author, Rebecca Mead, pooh-pooh the notion that religion and science are at odds. The essay acknowledges that secular observers may think there is some tension, but they have been misled by the work of the new atheists, including Richard Dawkins's intemperate book, The God Delusion. The new atheists were revisiting debates from the 19th century, don't you see, and were attacking a straw god. Consolmagno's deity is much more sophisticated and nebulous, not requiring belief in the literal meaning of biblical passages and whose existence is not something that can be argued for or against. Instead, God can be felt, as when data lines up perfectly in a pattern. After one such neat data plot, Consolmagno had this feeling of God peering over my shoulder going, "Isn't that cool?" Consolmagno's religion is like the religion embraced by many believers with higher education. The Bible is just a collection of metaphors, and God himself is a feel-good deity. Not so much an entity with clearly defined characteristics, but a warm, fuzzy feeling, a presence that one can sense but not deduce. Heartfelt, like a Hallmark card, and ultimately just as vacuous. In The God Delusion, Dawkins delivered a series of unanswerable arguments against any deity that possesses a meaningful description. But of course, one can dodge Dawkins's arguments by dancing away from logic and evidence and resorting to poetry. One cannot argue with a feeling, but that feeling reveals nothing beyond the subjective state of the person having that feeling. Reading the New Yorker article reminded me of a book I read decades ago, namely Hans Kung's Eternal Life. For those who do not recall Kung, he was celebrated at the time as a liberal theologian, in part because he, like Consolmagno, argued that one need not take the Bible literally. Moreover, Kung maintained that even Catholic Church doctrine could be interpreted metaphorically. So, I read his book with some anticipation, wondering how he was going to reconcile his unorthodox views with Catholic doctrine on eternal life. Or would he go so far as to admit that death is death? No reconciliation needed because Kung just delivered meaningless mush. For example, he said the resurrection of Jesus was not an historical event, but was, nonetheless, a real event. Huh? And as far as heaven is concerned, eternal life is beyond the dimension of space and time, in God's invisible, imperishable, incomprehensible domain. For educated believers, the undesirable conclusions that reason seems to demand can always be avoided by resorting to mystery. Label it incomprehensible, draw a veil over it, compartmentalize your beliefs, and go about your everyday work. I do not doubt Consolmagno is very good at his everyday work as an astronomer. He has a PhD and did postdoctoral work at MIT and Harvard. And if he wants to see God's face in a data plot or a cloud, fine. But his easygoing Hallmark Catholicism provides cover for his dogmatic church and for the many Catholics and other believers, Protestant Christians, Muslims, Jews, whatever, who do believe in the traditional deity, with that deity's weird demands, including an insistence on belief and worship. Consolmagno's church still has as part of its official doctrine the position that refusing to believe in God consigns one to eternal torment. See Catechism of the Catholic Church, 1034 to 1037. In other words, damn you if you don't believe. Yet it is the atheist who is labeled intemperate. Go figure. Thank you for listening to this audio edition of Free Inquiry, the journal for secular humanist ideas. If you enjoyed this article, consider subscribing to Free Inquiry magazine to explore more thought-provoking content on reason, ethics, science, and free thought. You can find more articles, subscribe, or support our work at secularhumanism.org. There you'll also discover resources on secular humanism, information on upcoming events, and ways to connect with a community of like-minded thinkers. If you believe in the importance of reason, free expression, and humanist values, consider making a donation to support our work. Every contribution helps us continue to publish, advocate, and provide resources for a more rational, secular world. Once again, thanks for listening and for supporting free inquiry, free minds, and free expression.